What's going on, everyone? So, we got our first little look at the upcoming Evil Dead movie. If you thought Evil Dead was over, you were wrong. Next film appears to be Evil Dead Burn. Now, this could just be the script title. Obviously, they could change it to something, like Evil Dead Rise. We saw, and that came out in, 2023. See when this one comes out. Imagine probably 2026, somewhere in that ballpark. But I'm excited for it, right? You got the little script written by Sebastian Vonchek, Florent Bernard, directed by Sebastian Venchek. But yeah, look, I'm excited for Evil Dead. The last film I really enjoyed. Alyssa Sutherland, who played Ellie, she was the one that played the possessed mother. She was fantastic in that movie. I thought she played that role just beautifully. But given how the movie ended, right? You gotta imagine you knew that there was going to be more coming. They even were rumors that hey, they want to do like this sort of like trilogy, even this new trilogy. So if that's the case, this would be the second installment. The general consensus was that Evil Dead Rise was good. A lot of people liked it. Obviously, Bruce Campbell wasn't in it. He was like the dissenting voice or whatever. So he got like credit for it, but he wasn't actually physically in the film, which a lot of people were disappointed about that. Also, the show, I am still upset that they didn't that they discontinued that show, Ash vs. the Evil Dead. I really like that show. I think that they should bring it back. That's just my opinion. Let me know yours. But I'm curious to see what kind of direction do they go, especially the way that it ended, right? Where you had what was it, Beth? She and then Cassie, I think was the little girl's name. You had the two of them survive kind of, right off into the sunset. Or are they going to come after her? You also had that kind of the scene in the beginning that ended up being at the end too. So they definitely have the setup. And my guess is that they're going to go that direction. But it's called Evil Dead Burn. Is this kind of like the end? Is it the burn of the people? Is it like, because Evil Dead Rise was kind of like they all like risen. Is this kind of like the end, the conclusion, like they burn, or is it that they all are like the people burn, right? That the demons are gonna come and possess everybody, and the Deadites are gonna take over, and humanity is going to burn. Right? There's a lot of ways that you can kind of interpret that. Like I said, I imagine that they're gonna kind of continue to tell the story, but also as long as you got like the book, like they should keep coming back. So even if they did kind of have this conclude sort of the Beth story, maybe, which I think could be fun, or is she even going to be in it? Maybe they just don't even go that route, or maybe they just have this kind of be its own thing. Right? But I did like that you had this, like the original Evil Dead, right? You had Evil Dead, you had part 2 where it like kind of picked up, and then you had Army of Darkness. I'd like to have like a continuity trilogy, right? I'd like to have something like that. So again, Evil Dead Burn is expected to release in 2026. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play. Is this just going to kind of be its own thing too? Like, because the thing is, we don't have really a bunch of information about this, right? We don't know if this is going to be kind of continuation. This could be something completely different. It might not have any involvement in Evil Dead Rise. It could just kind of be its own film. And I mean, to be fair with Evil Dead, you could do something like that. Like you could do like an anthology movie where like every movie it's kind of its own story with its own group of characters and stuff. But I would like kind of a continuity story, right? Like, I'd like to kind of explore, like I said, you have something with Beth, and she's got to take on the monsters. Like, that's one of the things that I liked about the show. It was just like this continued story. You had this overarching, big bad, and people being possessed, and I kind of like that. And I'd like to see, like, can you tell like a good overarching story over 2 or 3 films? I think that's something that I think could go a long way with the franchise. Because I love the Evil Dead franchise. Like, I know the originals were goofy and a little silly and over the top and a little ridiculous, but they're great. Like, how do you not love those films? Even Army of Darkness, right? It's just like, it's great. Um, I am. I'm a big fan of the franchise. Like I said, Ash vs. Evil Dead, I still believe needs to come back. These latest versions have been much darker, right? Kind of been more just modernized, which is fine. I don't mind that at all, right? This is a franchise that probably is best in that regard, right? Like Evil Dead, the remake, what was it, in 2013? I think it came out. Yeah, I think it was 2013. Um, like that remake did a really good job of like kind of capturing audiences. People really love that remake. It still kind of reigned true to the classic, right? And they changed and switched up a few things, but for the most part, it was essentially part 1 and 2 combined. And I thought that they did a really good job, right? It was very modernized, it was very dark, very brutal, very intense. Right? They really, you saw like, okay, this, you could see the vision with this Evil Dead franchise and kind of what they do going forward. And I like the idea of like, okay, now you got the Evil Dead Rise. This is like the first installment. It doesn't really tie into that original, but here you go. You got this like new story. We're gonna do more films. Get excited type thing, right? I like that idea. I like okay, you got the Evil Dead Rise. You have Beth, who is familiar with this. She's took on the big bad. I didn't really like one knock that kind of comes to mind with the Evil Dead Rise. I didn't like the monster mutation in the parking lot. I thought that was a little silly, a little ridiculous. I get it. It's it's not like a big deal. I'm not like, oh, the movie's terrible because of that, but that was something I could have done without. I was kind of like, a little too much, right? I thought you had a nice, clean film, and then kind of got a little carried away. It was kind of like, hey, let's do something crazy and out there, where they're all combining into one creature. I thought that was a little silly, but outside of that, I think you could kind of just continue to tell a story. You set up for a potential sequel. You could have that tie in Beth somehow, some way. I think that this could go a long way. I'd like to kind of see continuation. I don't want to see, like, I do like the idea of an anthology series, like I mentioned, where like each film is kind of its own thing. Each film is kind of its own story, but I also like the continuity. Man, I'd really like to see kind of the continuity. Kind of at least have, because look, you could do Evil Dead forever. You could always do the anthology route, but give me a nice, clean, tight story. Give me a nice, clean, tight script that just kind of follows a character or several characters through multiple encounters with these things, right? And the Deadites, maybe they're even following them and tracking them down, and because they survived, it puts others in jeopardy and other lives at risk because they were the ones that escaped, and the Deadites don't want to let up, right? It's just like, oh no, like you're not just gonna get away, right? Like there's a lot of ways that you can kind of go about this, but I thought that I said Liz Sutherland did a great job. I really want to see more exploration of like Beth and kind of that story, but kind of seems like this might be like its own thing. Like it might be like even some of the articles that have came out have been like the dark fantasy spinoff. Okay, again, if you want to keep doing like different versions, look, I'm on board for Evil Dead regardless, right? Like I'm gonna watch it regardless. I'm a fan of the franchise regardless, but I'm kind of keep going back and forth on that. But as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think like, yeah, keep a continuity story, keep stories in order and structured? Do you think like, no, you gotta do like the anthology route, have these different stories, have these different routes, tell unique things. Again, there's a lot of ways that they go about it, but I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.